Since it's 12:04, I'm just going to go ahead and get started with my little intro, and then we'll let people keep coming in before our presenters. So welcome everybody who's here and watching online later. Thank you so much for being with us today for our winter webinar series. My name is Kenna Bell. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Iowa Organic Association. And joining us today is Steve McLaskey from Maharishi International University, along with some other folks from their Regenerative Organic Agriculture Program. So they've got a really great presentation prepared for us today about some of their current educational programs and a bit of the really awesome research that they're doing on their farm and just throughout their whole program. So I want to save the majority of the hour here today for our presenters. But before we get into it, I just wanted to share some brief housekeeping things. So first of all, the Q&A is open. You'll see it there at the bottom of the screen. I really encourage you all to write any questions, comments, ideas, conversation topics that you may have throughout their presentation today, and I'll be reading those out loud and moderating a Q&A conversation during the last few minutes of the webinar. So just want to emphasize there's no silly questions, and I guarantee you if you're thinking something, someone else is as well. So please participate as you feel called to do so. I'm also recording this webinar today, and I will be posting it to our IOA YouTube page. It'll be available to the public there for free indefinitely, so feel free to go back and check on that or share it as you'd like. And I'll be sending each of you a link to that YouTube video along with a super brief survey later this afternoon. The survey just takes like 5 minutes to fill out, and it's very helpful for us as we continue planning our education and outreach programming to make sure everything is relevant and important and interesting and helpful to you all. So yeah, that's the housekeeping things. And then I just wanted to share a super brief overview of what we do here at the Iowa Organic Association for those of you who are maybe new here. So we are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2006. We have a statewide presence, and our members are a diverse community of farmers, gardeners, food farm businesses, advocates, researchers, and consumers who champion organic production and products. Our mission is to advance organic agriculture and food systems across Iowa, and we value ecosystem integrity, community and collaboration, and economic vitality. We have many priorities and programs as well. So education and training is a big part of that. Of course, our winter webinar series is one of them, but we also do college visits, field days, technical workshops, and we have many additional resources that we provide both online and in print. And much of our education and outreach programming is, including this webinar series, is funded through the USDA's Risk Management Agency. In addition to education and outreach, we're also available to provide technical support and other resources all across the state. So a big part of this right now is our partnership with TOP, which I'll talk more about a little bit on the next slide. We also conduct outreach, so we travel all across the state, and this also includes our social media, our e-news, and other online presence. So we have a wide variety of ways that we connect with Iowa's organic community. We also communicate with our policy leaders about organic and about the benefits of providing policies and other resources for the organic community. And then, of course, overall, we're just committed to growing the organic community in Iowa to provide support for each other and help grow the overall movement in the state today. So, as I mentioned, a big part of our technical support and outreach programming has been made possible through our partnership with the Transition to Organic Partnership Program. So that's allowed us to provide even more resources to the organic community. And our organic farm advisor, Susanna, is leading our organic mentorship program, and she's also organizing and facilitating some of our field days and technical workshops and other outreach as well. So if you're interested in being an organic mentor or mentee, it's a really great program, and you should definitely reach out to her. if you're interested. And I just wanted to share both of our contact info. So again, I'm Kenna, Education and Outreach, and then Susanna is our Organic Farm Advisor, and you'll find all of the information I just talked about and more on our website. So that's just a brief overview of what we do here at the IOA, but like I said, I want to save the majority of the time for our presenters today from Maharishi's Regenerative Organic Agriculture Program. So without further ado, I will pass it along to Steve McLaskey.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi. You had to unmute. So my name is Steve. A little bit about me, where I grew up on a farm in Illinois. My great-great-grandfather bought, all of this is on the website on the introduction, but I'll go over it anyway. My father was one of the first in the county to adopt conservation practices like contour plowing and so on. And extension agents would bring other farmers to our farm to show them how to do it, or to show the other farmers how to do it. That was all before I knew what was going on. My father stopped farming when I was 2 or 3, and my family sold the farm when I was 14, so I never got to farm that farm. But I ended up here at MIU, and since 1997, I've been teaching agriculture and farming here. And right now we have a regenerative organic agriculture program. And all the people here with me are involved with that. Maybe I should talk a little bit about MIU, because it's not your typical university. Start this slideshow here. So MIU, the home of consciousness-based education. Okay. All of the students and faculty here practice transcendental meditation. At other universities, the idea is that the faculty have lots of knowledge and they give it to the students like the students is a container and they're filling up the container with knowledge. Here at MIU, we have the idea that we can expand the container of knowledge and make it bigger. And
another thing that's really big with consciousness-based education is the experience of the knowledge in person.
Yeah.
And that's really big about just being involved in the knowledge and not just like taking information and regurgitating it, but rather being involved with the knowledge and engaged with it on a very personal level.
This is Ashley. Ashley knows. She was an undergraduate student here, went through the agriculture program, and now she's finished her master's degree in regenerative organic agriculture, and she is our assistant farm manager. The focus on consciousness, basically everything is connected to consciousness. What, you know, our thoughts, not just our thoughts, but everything we do is based in consciousness. And by developing our consciousness, we are increasing our awareness of ourself, our awareness of everything that's going on around us, increasing our creativity and problem-solving ability. And TM, Transcendental Meditation, is also a tremendous way to deal with stress. And I'm sure all of you know that farming can sometimes be stressful when the tractor won't start and the helper doesn't show up and the customers wants delivery right now, and there's bugs eating the broccoli. They're challenges. And we can all use a little bit of help dealing with the stress. So that's consciousness-based education, and MIU has many different educational programs, all the standard programs that you would find at any other university. Math and physics and biology and business and arts and media and communications, and Ayurveda is something that you don't find at many other universities, but it's a big program here. And MIU was the first university in the country to have a program in sustainable living. And it's the first university that I know of that has had a program in regenerative organic agriculture. Last year, one of our students told me that they had done an extensive search on 4-year accredited universities that had a program in regenerative organic agriculture. And he found 2, one university in Australia and MIU here in Fairfield. So we're pleased that we're one of the few.
You can be a beacon of light, hopefully.
Yeah. MIU is a small university, and there are advantages and disadvantages to that. It's a disadvantage that we don't have the financial resources that a big university like Iowa State or University of Iowa has. But it's an advantage in that we are not answering to anybody, that we're nimble, we can change, we can start new things, we can basically do what we want to do, and we don't have to worry about agribusiness donating money to the university and maybe being concerned about something we might be teaching in our classrooms. So we can teach whatever we know is true.
One thing that really stood out to me about one thing that really stood out to me about this university was that it was on a grassroots level. It was very personal. It wasn't like corporealized corporate agenda. I don't want to call it agenda, but just a narrative that I didn't necessarily agree with. I knew that nature exists on the fundamental level of the foundation of the smallest pieces. And that's what I felt like about this university. I wouldn't have come to college hadn't I found MIU.
Oh, let's see. So we have in the regenerative agriculture program, there's a bachelor's degree with a major in regenerative organic agriculture. And this can be taken on campus or online, as part of a 4-year bachelor's degree. And you need 50 credit hours in agriculture courses to get major. The on-campus major, the main part of it is a 9-month module that starts in February and goes through November, where the students start, with an introduction to regenerative agriculture. They learn permaculture, soil science, crop science, and they spend 2 months in the summer just full-time on the farm, getting the hands-on stuff that you can't learn in a classroom. I got a PhD in vegetable crops from Cornell University, one of the top universities in the school. And something I found out, it used to be that any most of the students who went to school to study agriculture had grown up on a farm. And so when you go to college to study agriculture, you don't learn to farm. But that's not the case anymore. It's now students going to college to learn about agriculture don't necessarily grow up on a farm. Of all the students that we've had here, only 2 grew up on a farm. And
Experience goes a long way. If you have experience in the field and you know how to work a shovel, work a tractor, you know what good compost feels like that's invaluable knowledge. And like a classroom can't show you that unless you're there in it.
yeah, so for the on-campus bachelor's degree, the on-farm learning is a vital part of the program. For the online students, there's an opportunity for them to come to campus to get that experience, but it's not required. I find that the online learning works well for students who already have a background in agriculture, but for students who don't, the on-campus hands-on part is really important. So then we have a master's degree. It's completely online, except that the students have an opportunity to come to the farm in the summer to get the hands-on experience. It's 16 months. Ashley here has taken that master's degree, and so has Abby. Would you like to say anything about it, either of you?
Yeah.
The thing that comes to mind is that it was exactly what I was looking for. Of course, it brings the people in that it needs to, and I was one of them. It was the perfect opportunity to work and study at the same time. I did get the benefit of being here on campus as an intern while I studied it, but it would be very similar to the people that already have something going or already have land or have this idea in their mind of their transition that they want to be doing. It gives you a really good baseline as to all the things to think about in order to be successful and be excited about your future in agriculture.
One thing that really stood out to me in the master's program, I feel like in my undergrad, I was in the in-person, like on the fields, working in the dirt kind of undergrad experience with the on-campus program. But when I took the master's degree, I feel like I really started to put the pieces together about what it takes to run a farm. It's not only working in the soil and creating abundance, but it's working economically and financially and creating abundance in that way, and having the creativity to like insert yourself in the world in a very like meaningful way. And there was classes creating and maintaining a sustainable farm business. That class really stuck out to me because it was, what do you need to do to survive in this landscape of economy? And that was something that I feel like farming is not just, growing crops, it's also a business, and how to use those things intelligently for your community and the people around you. I feel like that was a big one for me that stood out.
Yeah, just a note that since Ashley took the undergraduate program years ago, we've added some business courses to the bachelor's degree, just because of that important thing. So another thing that we have is a certificate in regenerative organic agriculture. There are 2 options for the certificate, either online for 5 months or on campus for 9 months. And the on-campus students participate along with the bachelor's degree students in the 9-month module. And so they get the hands-on experience on the farm. And the on-campus, the online students have the opportunity to come to get the hands-on experience on the farm for a month during the summer. And again, those programs have been designed to be really practical. Even the online certificate, the students are required to have some piece of land that they're working with. Even if they can't grow something on it, they need to be planning, and by the end of the 5 months, they have a really solid business plan, crop plan, for how to manage that land. So before we go on to the farm, Rack and Luna, do you want to say something about your educational experience here?
Yeah, sure. I have only taken one farm class so far, but last summer I did work here at the farm for the majority of the summer, and participated in organizing the Harvest Festival that we had last year, which was a huge component of bringing awareness to the farm and the community, and to the rest of the school. And one of my biggest takeaways, or like advantages of being here on the farm, is that it's, as Steve said, it's so malleable, and it's gives a lot of space for creative exploration and just like experimenting, and that's something that really appeals to me. And I'm really excited to just spend like the rest of this year here, because there's so much to do and there's so much to learn. And if I'm personally like really interested in a specific area of study, there's an opportunity for me to implement it on the farm, or like do some research. My personal, I have a personal love for food forestry, and so the farm manager and I will have been like collaborating and working on a plan for implementing more food forest designs here on the farm. So I think it's a big well of untapped potential, and for students that are really interested and like want to be creative and have the structure in place and like the finances that are supporting these creative explorations, I think that's a really incredible opportunity that should be taken advantage of. Yeah. Rack, do you have?
Yeah, so yeah, I am not specifically an ROA student. I actually came to MIU for the sustainability program. And then just through being kind of in that department, I ended up in some of the regenerative agriculture courses. And for me, that was that like ignited a passion that I didn't really know was there. And I think that just being around this group of people that everyone is like passionate about, you know, food and health and the soil, I've loved it here. I think that the block system is really helpful for me personally to be, you know, in one course each month versus having to manage, you know, 4 or 5 courses for a whole semester. I feel that that has been a huge benefit of coming to MIU specifically. And then just getting that hands-on experience at the farm here and learning from people like Steve, who have so much wisdom and knowledge in this specific category. I feel like it's unmatched as far as other programs that I've heard of and looked at in agriculture. I think it's definitely worth considering checking it out.
Anything else? Thanks, Rack. So we could tell people a little bit about the farm. Okay. We can get this to go. It's not. There we go. Okay. So this is our farm. We're farming about 1.5 to 2 acres of vegetables, but the farm itself is close to 19 acres. The other acres we've used for pasture. Chris Johnson, who was our farm manager up until this year, has his own cattle operation, and he brings his cattle here for a couple months at the end of each summer. So the cattle have a summer vacation, and we have the benefit of
Regeneratively grazing our.
yes, regenerative grazing. So let's see. So the students are involved with every aspect of the farm, planting the seeds, growing the crops, harvesting, marketing. We run it, it's on the model of Elliott Coleman and J.M. Fortier, intensive vegetable production. Here's Caterpillar Tunnel, the students are transplanting, bringing in the harvest, having fun with the sweet potato harvest, marketing at the farmer's market. So we sell our produce through a CSA at the farmer's market and to several restaurants in Fairfield, and also to the university's food service.
And occasionally restaurants around Fairfield.
Yes. And the students are involved with every aspect of that, so they get experience in all aspects of running a farm. See what else we have. We also have chickens. Abby is our chicken
Chicken
person.
lady. Yeah. Should I say more?
How many?
Sure. Go ahead.
So we, as Muna had mentioned, the students can get an opportunity to come up with a plan, come up with the financials of it, how would it be profitable, what that's gonna look like. We as a farm team last year got introduced to this chicken plan by a couple of students, and we all said yes to take it on. So the students have graduated and moved on, and we still have chickens, which is awesome. So we've got a flock of chickens that are our laying hens, and they've been a heck of an experience for all of us to learn about. I grew up on a farm, but I you know, you're little, you play with the chickens, and that's all you need to do. This has definitely been a really cool thing of like, how do you make things simple and still provide like the best care? And how do we keep it like a universal plan so that everybody can be on board with chores and as a team? I mean, it's learning for me as a teacher and staff now, and it's learning for all the students that are a part of it. How do we keep them safe? What kind of fencing do we need? What kind of space do we need? Do we keep them sedentary in one space, permanent fencing? Do we move them around? How do we best utilize their fertilizer? All kinds of things. So that's been really fun to explore and discover with the students.
So one of the things that's unique at the MIU farm is we do, we also we're certified organic, and we're also certified biodynamic. So here are the students burying the horns with the horn manure in to make the biodynamic preparations and stirring it for applying it. Another thing that's special about MIU is our composting. We have 3 types of compost that we're doing. We're composting all of the food waste from the university's food service. Again, that started many years ago with a student project that Monica wanted to, for her senior project, she wanted to compost 10% of the food waste from the university's food service. And after a month of doing that, she realized that that was easy. And she decided to up her goal to compost 100% of the waste from the university's food service. And that was more of a challenge because that amounts to between 500 and 700 pounds of food waste every day. And 7 days a week. But I worked with Monica and we organized it, and we have a major composting operation. These are compost windrows out in the field. We also have a hoop building where we have compost piles. It's comes in really handy when it's pouring rain or in the winter when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. So we have we pick up the the food waste, they put it in barrels, garbage cans. This was a really light day that I took this picture. There's usually twice that many barrels. And we haul them out to the farm and dump them on the compost piles. And after a while, we turn them with our compost turner, and the feral cats appreciate the warmth on a cold winter day. Iowa has lots of rules about composting, and we are able to do what we do because we're a university, and well, basically we fly under the radar for most of the rules because the food waste is generated on campus and it's composted on campus and it's used on campus. If we were to take in food waste from off of campus, or if we were to sell our compost or use it off of campus,
A lot more checks and balances.
yeah, we would have to get permits and licenses and pay the fees and have inspections and all kinds of other stuff. So we just keep it simple, well, as simple as 700 pounds of food waste a day can be. And do everything on campus. You know, we don't take waste from off campus or distribute it elsewhere. So the compost is a major source of fertility for our farm. And another source of fertility is our compost tea. Oh, we'll get to that. Another kind of compost we're doing is the Johnson Sioux compost. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's something we found to be very beneficial. David Johnson and his wife developed this composting. David is a microbiologist, and he wanted to develop a way to increase the microbial diversity and health of our agricultural soils. And so he developed this composting method, which develops a huge diversity and abundance of microbes in the compost. It's a fungally dominant compost. You put it in this, you make a container with wire, and you put the landscape fabric in it to provide a container that's lets water and air through. You put these pipes in it to create air channels. You chop up the straw. Here we're chopping up hay with our flail mower, and we also added chopped up tomato vines from last year's tomato crop. You get it wet, drain it and put it in the pile. We found that it works well to use these plastic baskets to scoop up the wet hay and let it drain for a minute or two and then dump that into the pile. And everybody's happy when the pile is done. There's our farm team and the group of students this year. And this is the finished product. It takes a year for the compost to be finished. It's basically undisturbed for a year. It's kept aerobic and kept moist. And it's a very rich, soft clay-like texture. It's amazing stuff. And so we make compost extract and compost tea out of that and out of our other compost. Here's our worm bins, just small scale for educational purposes, and worm castings that we put in our compost tea. We have a really big compost tea brewer. We also have a cone tank. We just got that and don't have a permanent setup for it yet, but we like that better than the other one because it's a lot easier to clean it out. And then the students get to spray the compost tea on our fields. So the compost and the compost tea are basically the only fertility that we use on our farm. Another thing that we do a lot at our farm is season extension. Low tunnels. We used to do a lot of low tunnels. We have the plastic on over the cover, and then there's another layer of hoops with a fabric row cover underneath it. So there's 2 layers of protection. And there's the komatsuna growing under it in the middle of January. There's some cold damage. There's still a lot that we can harvest and sell to the farmers market. That we've been on this location where the farm is now for 7 whole growing seasons. We've had the farm on other locations before that. And since 2004, we've been growing year round in greenhouses, hoop houses, cat tunnels, low tunnels. I think there's been less than 20 weeks in the last 20 years that we haven't had something to take to the farmers market. So here's our caterpillar tunnels. We like the caterpillar tunnels better than the low tunnels because when it's 20 degrees outside and you need to harvest, you can be inside where it's a little warmer instead of standing out in the cold while you're harvesting the vegetables. Here's some more of our caterpillar tunnels. And inside in the cold of winter, we cover them with the landscape fabric over the wire hoops. When it's really cold, we put 2 layers of landscape fabric, and we've got crops growing through the winter. So here's students in the summer. We use the caterpillar tunnels for warm season crops. They're nice for crops that need trellises like cucumbers and tomatoes, bitter melon. That's surprisingly one of our major crops. There's at MIU, there's a lot of people from Asia, from India and China and other places in Asia where bitter melon is popular. And we are the only source of bitter melon in town. So we sell all the bitter melon we can grow. Other hot warm season crops we grow in the tunnels, turmeric and ginger. Cucumbers like it in the tunnels. Let's see. Anything else anybody wants to say about farm?
Say that we're the only year-round at the farmers market, sorry.
Yeah, we're the only farm at the Fairfield Farmers Market that has produce year round. One other vendor has winter squash. He comes every few weeks through the winter, and once in a while somebody else has some spinach, but we're there every week.
Are you gonna talk about seed saving?
Oh, we do some seed saving. I don't have that in the presentation, but yeah.
That's something we're working on doing more of too in these coming years. It's
Yeah,
saving more seed.
seed saving is an important part of being regenerative, and there are several crops that we save seeds from. Two crops that we are actually breeding for one. There's one, I call them Goodrich greens. They're years ago in the spring, we had been growing a bunch of different Asian greens in the winter in our greenhouses. And in the spring, they all go to flower and seed. There was komatsuna and mizuna and bok choy and Chinese cabbage. And there may have been some turnips as well. And the honeybees came in and spread the pollen around it when they were blooming. And by the time I got all of them pulled out and planted the summer crops, some of them had dropped seeds on the ground. And the next fall, there were a lot of plants growing up there that they tasted good and turned out to be really cold hardy. So I've been saving seeds from them ever since. I call them Goodrich greens after the branch of my family that's been farmers for generations. And then there's a cherry tomato that we've been breeding. So let's see.
Steve, I don't know if you mentioned anything about crop rotation, like in the schedule of how we do that.
Oh, yeah, we obviously do crop rotations. Like,
Move our Solanaceae plots around pretty frequently.
yeah, and we do the standard crop rotations that any organic farm does. One thing we do that's unusual is that we grow lettuce in the summer. And the way we do that is we grow it in the cat tunnels. We put shade cloth on the cat tunnel to keep it cool, and we turn on the sprinklers several times during the middle of the day for 10 minutes at a time to help cool things down. And we grow varieties that are adapted to growing in the warmer weather. And so we can grow lettuce and other greens in our cat tunnels throughout the summer. And we have that on a very tight succession planting where we harvest from each cat tunnel for about 2 weeks, and then those crops are starting to go down in quality. And so every 2 weeks we're planting another caterpillar tunnel, and so we harvest a different one every 2 weeks. And after we harvest them, we take out those plants and harvest the next plant. And we do a rotation where the lettuce was planted the first time. We plant the baby kale and baby chard and other greens, and the lettuce goes where those were the first time around. So, all right. I could talk about a research study that I did years ago in growing in greenhouse, but I want to save time for questions. So maybe we should save that for another time.
Well, thank you all so much. It was so cool to see some of the pictures of your farm and hear about some of the work you're doing. I was excited to hear specifically more about the growing lettuce in the summer. That's so impressive to me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I want to continue the conversation, and we have a couple questions in the Q&A that I've also been curious about. So we have someone asking what the term regenerative agriculture is, like when it's appropriate to use, and maybe if you have anything on the benefit of this term for a consumer's perspective as well.
Okay, that's a big question.
Yeah, let's start big.
Um, what regenerative means to us is not what it means to everybody. For us, for me, regenerative agriculture is an agriculture that enriches the soil, that increases biodiversity, that sequesters carbon, that creates nutrient-rich foods. Basically something that enriches our resources, our natural resources, while it's using those natural resources to grow our food. So instead of using up our natural resources, we are actually regenerating them while we are growing our food. Unfortunately, the term regenerative doesn't have a legal definition. Organic has a legal definition. You can't call something organic unless it meets all of the organic regulations and requirements, and your farm has been inspected and approved by an accredited certifying agency. And all of that is a lot of trouble and expense. So there are farms and there are big food companies who like the term regenerative because it's not regulated. They can do whatever they want and call it regenerative and take advantage of the interest in consumers in doing something that's good for the environment. So yeah, I guess it's a case of consumer beware. That not all not all foods that are labeled regenerative are much different than conventional foods. If it's organic and regenerative, then that means a lot more.
I know that there are some certifiers that use regenerative, and so that's just up to the consumer to do their research, right? So if it's regenerative and you don't know, then you get to do some research on that certifier, and they'll have, what their certification means to them, because everybody has this different idea about it. And there's a lot. I mean, even organic has another one on top of it. The Real Organic Project, for example, has higher standards of organic practices that add different components of it. So like, how would you know if you didn't research it? So you get to research it and learn about the extraordinary things that people want to do on their land.
Yeah, there is a certification service that certifies farms to regenerative standards that Rodale Institute and some other organizations have created regenerative organic standards. And so a farm that is, or a food product that is certified to those standards has very high standards. I mean, if they're certified, then that is something that you can trust.
Definitely. Yeah, it sounds like there's so much overlap, especially with prioritizing soil health between all of the labels and with practices as well. And I know you all have done a great work within Fairfield and beyond to help educate on some of the different practices that you use, which kind of goes into the next question I'm seeing. Do you have the question is if there's like a go-to guide for how to implement regenerative agriculture. And based on what you said, it seems like it's case by case and just really depends. But are there any resources that you would suggest for a producer who's interested in maybe trying something new with regenerative?
Comment on that, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to share my personal like meaning of regenerative, or like what regenerative means to me. And I think in a world that has normalized a lot of destructive practices and a dark kind of relationship with the planet, regenerative are the practices that will basically evolve us into a healthier, happier world in all aspects. I think like not just working on the farm and like generating that health and happiness from the community building and just being in like the sweetness of being on the farm, but the nutrition of the food, the taste of the food, and the intelligence that we're now studying, like it with nature and like what it means to be a steward of nature. I think those are like, to me, a regenerative farm is one that generates well-being and happiness for the entire ecosystem, and really takes the farm as a whole and the person as a whole ecosystem in relationship to the world and the town around them, and how that can be developed, and just like thinking more creatively about what the world that we want to create looks like, and how can we keep experimenting and like problem solving to keep moving in that direction. And I think that's something that the farm really, really does well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that definition. I think the intentionality and like the language you're using around consciousness is really important, especially as farming is hard. We all know this, right? And so to have that sense of purpose and intentionality is really cool.
One
This is
resource, especially for vegetable growers,
Yeah.
the new Organic Grower book by Elliot Coleman. That's the book that I use as a textbook for my Introduction to Regenerative Agriculture class.
You said Elliot
Coleman,
Coleman? Okay.
yes. The new
I can
Organic
send that
Grower.
out if anyone's interested.
Yeah, the third edition, 30th anniversary edition is really good.
Thank you.
Also, I feel like understanding ecology, understanding how systems are connected, really like getting your brain thinking.
Technical difficulties here.
Because the gist of regenerative agriculture is based on ecological health. And so like one thing that really put things into perspective, like yes, there's practices and there's like means by which to an end to achieve regenerative practices. But I feel like understanding ecological behavior, how nutrients are cycled, how things are connected inherently by the way that they communicate through their pieces and parts, that kind of thinking really put into perspective to me like what it means to think regeneratively. And it transformed from like, I don't know, taking just ideas which are going to be unique for every farm and really coming to the fundamental components and behaviors and principles of these elements that we're working with. It's a whole system thinking. And I feel like really just like studying ecology and learning about how systems behave. Like, I feel like that's a great introduction and way to start getting your brain thinking regeneratively. And I will say, regenerative food is some of the best tasting food I've ever had.
Yes, to all of that. So another question here, what would it look like for a larger scale, say like factory farm, organic farm, to be regenerative?
Okay, yeah, great question. The main thing is focusing on the soil. Cover crops on a large scale, integration with livestock might make it a lot easier. Gabe Brown has done amazing things with regenerative agriculture, integrating livestock, maybe even an emphasis on livestock. Rodale Institute, yes, is doing a lot. Main thing is keeping the ground covered, keeping things growing, cover crops, and
Keeping that biology alive,
yeah.
as many natural inputs as possible.
Mhm.
And the Johnson Sioux compost is something that's can make it easy to increase the biological diversity of the soil. It takes a year to get finished compost, but then it's so abundant in microbes that a small amount goes a long way. David Johnson makes a compost tea, just mixes the compost with water and strains it, and puts that in the furrow where he's planting. If you have a planter with a liquid fertilizer applicator, you can put the compost tea in there and put in the biology when you're planting. It doesn't even take an extra pass over the field.
Didn't you say it was like a pound for 13?
2 pounds per acre is
2 pounds per
is
acre.
what he can use when he's making the compost extract and coating the seeds with it before he plants.
That's so cool. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. What I'd like to say on that is like, it's gonna look absolutely different for every single farm, right? The idea behind what Steve was offering is like their principles, right? Integrating livestock is gonna look different for your farm. It's gonna look different for my farm, based on what we're capable of, what we have access to, etc.
Yeah.
So
What your
places,
markets are, what your
what your markets are, what equipment you have. I know that there are a lot of cool things being done with equipment that you already have and revamping it so that it works with cover crops or it works with interplanting, interseeding different things. Flying over your cover crop instead of going another pass on your field and lessening your compaction on the ground. I mean, there's a million ways and there's a million options. So the exciting part is you get to think for yourself. And sometimes the hardest part is you have to think for yourself. And it takes a little bit of creativity, a little bit of like, okay, let's try something new here. Let's see what can work for us. Let's try a small little piece. Let's ask for help. Let's ask for help. And don't be afraid to ask. Because I think the best thing that we can do is learn from each other and meet each other. Local farmers, even outside of that, we start to create this network. And I think the Iowa Organic Association, like what you're doing in connecting people, is fantastic. The best medicine is learning from each other. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
That's
Yeah.
our resilience. Right
Yeah, I know mostly about vegetable crops, and I know much less about livestock and row crops. So
But we've got people who know about that and give
yeah,
us information when
there
we
are
need it.
others- There are others that have that other information.
Definitely. Yeah, it sounds like the combined answers to the questions you've gotten so far is that there's not one set rule book for any of this, but the resource is creativity and community, which I've heard, so many farmers who are transitioning into organic or maybe adopting new regenerative practices. The process of learning, there's not like a set guideline of what inputs to put in anymore. You have to kind of figure it out in a new way. But it
Yeah.
can be really cool. I know we're a little bit over, but I do, just on the topic of community, I want to ask, so ideologically you're maybe a little bit unique in Iowa, right? Which is awesome. So I'm just curious, how do you handle this? How do you work with your community and the surrounding communities?
Can you repeat the question?
One big thing was we had a harvest festival last fall that Abby Luna organized.
Yeah.
And both of them are right here.
I think it's growing. I think that's a big part of the current team that's on the farm right now, is putting as a priority to connect with our community and really offer wisdom, resources, whatever we have to offer. because like what I said is this is important. And we couldn't be here with the freedom of that thought without the 7 years prior and the people prior to building a system that is working so that we have the freedom to start to think like, what's next? And on that, we've had multiple ideas this year that we're implementing that are going to save us so much time and so much labor. We've invested in an automated watering system in our greenhouse that we're going to construct. We're going to have a paper pot transplanter that's going to save us a ton of time transplanting. And with that, the students get to learn about where we started, where we came from, and what we're doing now so that things are easier and better. And then we have more time for community connection, for more deliveries, for more harvest festivals, like more things to engage, more workshops maybe. So we're really looking forward to that.
I think also like right now the farm is focused on like the community here in the town here and hasn't put a lot of attention on the local farmers or like the surrounding farmers. And I think that that's the most important for right now is like developing these relationships with the community and really re-educating on why regenerative organic agriculture is so important and why they should be investing in their own local farm practices and to like build this foundation, build a structure for the farm to have kind of just like a ground in the community, being supported by the community, for this community to be supported by the farm. And then just by leading by example, I think other farms can start to, you know, educate themselves and come and question. And that's what the Harvest Festival is kind of for, is like an educational opportunity to come and visit the farm and what we're doing. So
I love it all. Are y'all doing another harvest festival this summer?
Yes.
Yeah, do you know when it is yet?
We don't have a date set, but just
Okay.
sometime in September, look for it.
yeah.
All right. Well, everyone keep your eye out for that because it sounds incredible. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time we have for today, but thank you all so much for presenting. This was a really great presentation, and everyone who's in attendance, please check out the MIU website or reach out to us if you're interested in learning more or have more questions. Yeah. Any final words from you all?
Thank you for the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Yes,
All
we're all learning together and helping
Yes,
each other.
We're all in this together.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all again. And I'll see you all on Wednesday, hopefully, for our last webinar of the series. So thank you. See you all soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.